Yes. Hello guys, very good morning to all of you, and here I am there, CS Sumit Maru with you for your paper number 4, DT and IDT. Today we are going to start with the topic number 4, exemptions from GST. Okay, so there are few things here in GST which are specifically excluded, from GST, on which you can say that GST is not applicable. And today, in this today's lecture and a lecture after tomorrow, we are going to explore all these things on which GST is specifically not applicable. Okay, so this today's target will be to learn all the provisions relating to exemption of GST. We'll go in detail for all the provisions given in your notes given by the government and updated by different notifications which are again valid for your November exams. Okay, so guys, here that things we are going to cover. The second thing we are going to cover is your all questions of your study material as well, and some few more examples from my side which will help us in the conceptual clarity. So here I am a chartered accountant by profession and a passionate teacher teaching from life in the field of teaching for government organizations, symbiosis, and for the GST training only. Now let's start with our today's topic, which is about exemptions. Now guys, the thing is, whenever we see exemptions, what things are going to cover here? Okay, generally we have a mindset to have a very small proportion that only exempt things which are given by government will be under exemptions. But here in GST, they have said the exempt things we are notifying that are definitely going to be exempt, but the exemption goods definition or the exemption goods and service definition will be not limited to only exemptions provided by notifications. Yes, sir? Really? Yes, absolutely. It's an interesting thing here, an interesting concept given by government, which include more things, not only limited to the exemption things given. How come, sir? So let's see that. So guys, here in exempt supply, firstly what they have said there, any goods or service or both which attracts. So it may be a goods or it may be a service or it may be both which will attract. And now they are given 3 different things here. And you have to remember all these 3 things very nicely, because many times a conceptual question comes here and students are generally confused with this. They have the narrow mindset of having exempt goods only to the given exempt notification. No. Here in the definition itself of exemption goods, they have covered the first thing, nil rate of tax. So whichever goods and services has nil rate, please don't confuse this with 0 rated. Okay, hopefully this is clear with you. Nil rated are the goods and service which are taxable at 0%. Right? Just a minute. So here guys, when I am saying here nil rated, just a minute. When I am saying here nil rated, okay, when I'm saying here nil rated, it means all the goods which have 0% tax applicability. Okay, so there are certain kinds of goods and services that are taxable, but right now are taxable at 0%, and such type of goods and service will be included in your, yes, exempt supply. Please remember this, all such type of goods and service which has 0% rate, please 0% rate, known as nil rated or nil rate of tax, will be included in your exempt supply. This is the first thing which gets included under your exempt supply. Hereafter, the next thing comes into picture is your wholly exempt from tax. Now the second thing, we all know that whatever goods government has notified, government has given an order that these goods and this service are going to be exempt, they are obviously going to be there in your exempt supply definition. Absolutely clear, no problem in this. And which is the third thing now here, which they are covered in exempt supply definition, is your non-taxable supply as well. Now here many students have problem with the conceptual thing. They say, sir, nil rate tax and zero rated goods both are same. Just wait for a minute. They both are not same at all. Okay. Just a second. Yes. Okay. Now here guys, when I am talking about nil rated, that means 0%. They are chargeable to tax but at 0%, and hence we are taking this in a definition of exempt goods. And there is a difference between nil rated and, as I said you, zero rated. If you remember well, zero rated are the goods and services which are exported. Yes, so these are not specifically included in the definition of exempt goods. So you have to please clearly remember the nil rated and the difference between zero rated. Nil rated are goods taxable at 0% and hence included in exempt supply. Okay, so what three things we have discussed in the terms of exempt supply was: one, nil rated; another, the exempt goods itself; and the third one, which we have seen just right now, was your, yes guys, what was the third one? Wait a minute, I'm not able to see PowerPoint. Yes, nil rated, the first one. Second one is your specifically exempted goods, and the third one, which was non-taxable supply, which yet we are remaining to explore. Okay, so now when I'm talking about the non-taxable supply here, that means I will again take you to the PPT. Yes, when I'm talking about the slideshow, yeah, non-taxable supply. So here non-taxable supply itself, again you must have learned this in your second third lecture of your GST, that there are certain supply which are specifically excluded from the complete GST provisions. There are supply of certain few things on which GST will be never applicable, at least for some period right now, because they are specifically excluded from the scope of GST, and hence certain and such goods and services are known as non-taxable goods and services. Let's see here, I have given a definition for you for the non-taxable supply of goods and services here. Let's read that. Examples of supply not liable to tax are, which are not liable to tax, which are excluded from the scope of GST itself. First, alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Second, specified petroleum products, namely petroleum crude, high spirit diesel, motor spirit, natural gas, and aviation turbine fuel. These all things are known as non-taxable supply, as specifically excluded from GST. So here, now when you are learning definition of exempt supply, you need to know there are three things that are going to be considered under exempt supply. First, nil rate of tax goods, whatever goods and service at 0%. Second, the goods and service specifically given as an exemption. And third, non-taxable supply on the goods and services where the GST's provisions are not applicable. So these three things come under the criteria of your exempt supply. Okay, any queries so far? Just a minute, I will check your queries. Yes. Okay. Good morning. PowerPoint. No, it's for CA Inter itself. Okay. And there was one query, sir. Your PowerPoint presentation not shown. Yeah. In between, I had taken you towards your next part of your blank page. So maybe at that particular time, hopefully it is now visible to you all. Sale of complete building is non-taxable supply. We will come to that point later on. Manish, we'll come to that point later on. Okay. What if, when the building thing is not taxable or something like that. Right now, let's get to the basic. And the basic says here that exempt supply contains three things. And this is what we need to understand. Yes. Okay. Ayush, yes, it's intermediate. Sir, as per new amendment, alcoholic liquor for human consumption is Anushka, please, amendments that as on 1st of October amendments are not applicable for you. So specifically stay away from that particular thing. For you, as we know, till 31st of May, amendments are applicable to you. So let's focus till that, because if you are going to learn more, you are going to confuse yourself. Okay. So right now, let's stay focused. Once you complete your exams and then go for the amendment, which are literally later applicable. Okay. So let's come back to the PPT now. Okay. Next. Now, sir, we got to know what are exemptions. It is clear to us. Now, so when and in which manner the exemptions are provided. Let's go to some detail into that. Okay. Firstly, exemption. Now, just imagine you are sitting in the hall of government people, all the GST council is in front of you, and now they are just about to give a new exemption. How can this new exemption be given? First point, exemption to specified activities or transaction. The exemption can be given to certain specified activities or certain specified transaction itself. Okay, the council may come on the speaker and they can say, okay, from today, certain activities, certain this XYZ ABCD activities or ABCD transactions are exempt. This is the first manner of exemption, how they can give it. Just an example which I am taken here, services by way of renting residential dwelling to use as a residence. So see, now don't go into detail of this exactly what, sir, we haven't taught this. I have just given a small example. So we are going to learn in detail every exemption. Okay, so first, just an example, government can come, and government has already came and they have said that whenever someone is using residential dwelling for his residence, so personal use, okay, GST will be not applicable. The first thing, the exemption in type of activity. So anyone going and living in some house for his residential purpose, no GST applicable. Second way, they can exempt specified suppliers. There may be a list of suppliers to whom they will say that from tomorrow, these all suppliers don't need to charge GST. We have specifically excluded them. We have given them an exemption. Just like an example, RBI, services by Reserve Bank of India, are given as an exemption. So whenever RBI gives any services, they are exempt from GST. So here, government has said that supplier, who is supplier here in the example? RBI. RBI is a supplier and is covered in the exemption. Hence, RBI do not need to charge GST. Second way, how they can provide you the exemptions. Third way, exemption to specified recipient. Now, one way, if they can give the exemption to the suppliers, similarly, they can give exemption in the hands of recipient as well. Government can say, if you are providing service to A, B, C recipients or certain types of recipient, you do not need to charge tax to them. An example for this is services provided to central government under any insurance scheme. So let's take just a nominal example for now. If any insurance company is giving services to central government and the premium is paid by central government. So here, supplier is insurance company and the receiver is central government who is paying the premium. So here, government itself has notified in such cases, the recipient, the government, will not be charged with tax. So insurance company to giving while giving insurance service to everyone, it will charge tax. But when it will be giving services to central government, no taxability of charge, because central government is specifically given an exemption in this case. Okay, so three ways till now we have seen how the exemptions are given. First, for any particular activity itself. Second, to the supplier, and third, to the recipient. Let's go to the fourth and the last way, exemption to specified supplier and specified recipient. Now in this last way, they can give an exemption to both of the people, the supplier as well as the recipient. Just like in the case of example, services by Employee State Insurance Corporation, ESIC. Many people also say as ESIC. Two persons governed under this ESIC Act, it is an exemption. So even the supplier and the receiver, the both members as well as the supplier, both have given an exemption here. So these are the four ways tomorrow government can come and announce an exemption. Okay, activities, supplier, recipient, supplier as well as recipient. Clear? Let me check for queries here first. Okay. Difference between nil and exempt. See, Shamim, nil exemption is a broader scope. Exempt, just imagine example, exempt goods is like a book which has nil rated goods as one of its page. Okay, so nil rated will be included in the definition of exemption. Yes, that will be a taxable, Sanjay. Mancha, no sir. Yes, Mancha, but anyways, alcoholic liquor for human consumption is not a discussion for us for today for our applicable exam. So better stay away from it. We'll see later on. But for us, for now, for our exam, alcoholic liquor for human consumption is non-taxable and hence it is in your exempt goods. Okay, let's go further. Now, the next important things are, okay, so we got to know exemptions can be given in 4 different ways. But how come, sir? And who is going to give? Very obvious answer, Government of India. Right? So here, GST law empowers. The law itself empowers the central government or state government as the case may be. So for SGST, state government is the case. For CGST or IGST, central government will be the case. To grant an exemption from tax, the exemption is granted on recommendation of GST Council. This is very important, guys. So here, the punch, you can see the punch should be emerged from GST Council. Then and then only it can be given as an exemption. So here the important point to know that it should be the recommendation of the GST Council. Only and only if GST Council recommend it, then and then only the central government or the state government, as the case may be, can give an exemption. So this is most important. The recommendation should be passed for GST Council. So you must have seen every month there are meetings of GST Council. GST Council comes and they meet here. So the GST Council comes, sit here, they think on different criteria where they can further provide an exemption, and then they give the recommendation to the government, and then government is in the position that whether they have to grant it or to not grant it is the power in the hands of the central or the state government. Okay, now central and state government. Okay, so just imagine GST Council have done meeting. They have said, sir, to government that yes, on certain things exemption should be provided. Government has said, okay, amazing, you can say recommendation from GST Council, and let's give an exemption. So how this exemption can be brought into practice, or how we people, we chartered accountants, you, the future chartered accountants, the general public will get to know about this exemption. First way, by notification. Yes, okay, but we obviously any update, any of the social media, anywhere, anything in any of the your application, how you get to know any change? By the notification. Similarly here, government is going to give you a notification or by a special order. The second way how it can give is the by a special order. Let's explore these both terms, by notification and by special order. So here, when I'm talking about notification, let's read this. Government can simply notify you that from tomorrow or from today itself or from this date or XYZ date that certain goods or certain supply of services are covered under exemption, and it's your duty that you don't have to charge tax upon this. Let's read this. Where the government is satisfied, just a minute. Yeah. Okay. Where the government is satisfied that it is necessary in the public interest to do. Okay. So here government is saying we won't do it anyways. If it is in public interest, then and then only the recommendation can be passed. It may, on the recommendation of council. Just a minute, let me try noting here. Yes. In public interest, the first thing you have to highlight here. It may, again, it's the final decision is upon the government on the recommendation. This recommendation is very important. Once if the recommendation is received, then only government will go further. By notification, exempt. Now, the first type, how they can give notification update to all people by the notification. Exempt generally, either or absolutely, subject to such condition as may be specified therein, goods or services or both, any specified description from the whole or part of tax leviable thereon with the effect from such date as may be specified in the notification. So here they have simply said, in a public interest, if government thinks so, on the recommendation of council, they can by notification say you that certain goods or services are going to be exempt from this and that date. That's it, as simple as that. The first way they can convey you the exemption. The second way, see here, you can check this. The second way is your by special order, where the government is satisfied, again, that is necessary in the public. Again, the special order also, it should be necessary in the public interest. Okay. So to do, it may, on the recommendation of the council, by special order. Now see the another way how they can pass the your exemption. Again, recommendation of council by special order. In such case, under circumstances and exceptional nature to be stated in order. So here, in certain exceptional cases or in exceptional circumstances, government can again pass an exemption by a special order. Now, sir, what are these certain or what are these exceptional nature circumstances? This will be given in order itself. Okay, so two ways how government can convey you the exemptions. First, by notification in very normal way, recommendation by council. Second, by a special order in certain exceptional natures. Again, which will be given in the notification. It can give an exemption to certain type of goods or services from any date, again specified in the notification or the special order. Okay, now exemption here can be again in two parts. It can be for complete tax, complete GST exemption, or from some part of tax. It will again depend, and you have to learn this from the notification itself. Okay. Yeah. Now the exemption can be of two types. It can be either conditional or unconditional. Conditional, that means there are certain conditions. If you are well enough, if you qualify that certain conditions, then and then only the exemption is applicable for you. And unconditional exemption, as I have written here, I have given the stamp of mandatory. Unconditional exemptions are mandatory. Means even if I desire to charge tax, I can't charge the tax on certain supplies or of goods or services which are exempted unconditionally. So if government is providing an unconditional exemption on something, it has to be given without any tax. Even though I am of a very social service nature, I want to collect from tax, people want to give me tax, but still I can't collect as the exemption given is unconditional. It is mandatory. Please remember, it is mandatory that I should not charge the tax on certain goods of supply and services. Okay, so see, this is again a diagram given in your study material itself, which beautifully states how exemption can be brought into place. See, government generally exempt supply of goods or service for specified description, can give an exemption on recommendation of GST Council by a notification. This again can be conditional or unconditional. Unconditional, mandatory. Conditional, if you satisfy that particular condition, and government can exempt this wholly or partly from a date specified again in the notification. So this was the first way how government can give an exemption notification. The next way is the special order, which we already learned, again on the recommendation of the GST Council in the public interest, but in exceptional circumstances. Okay, so these are the two ways of exemption which government can give. So this is all the background. This is all the background study which we have just seen, so that you come into the main picture. Firstly, obviously, before reading anything, before learning anything, we have to see how the things can be brought into place. Okay, and from here, we'll be soon proceeding to your main exemptions. Just one more slide, and then we'll go to your main exemptions. We'll take it turn by turn, and after every exemption, I am going to see your queries. Okay. Now here, exemption by notification. This is interesting thing here. Now everyone, please pay attention to me for a minute. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Exemption by notification. Now just imagine, please everyone pay attention to me. Just imagine today government has came with a notification and they have said certain supply of goods and services are exempt. Okay, but say government haven't given a complete specifically statement or haven't explained that particular thing in detail. They have just given a normal exemption, a normal notification, and they have came up the same thing. Okay, now the people started to take the exemption, but unfortunately, what government intended, or to which specific category of people government intended they have to exempt, they are not taking the exemption, and else everyone is taking out some different meaning and taking the benefit of the exemption. Now in this case, now please remember, now in this case or in any of such case, after giving a notification within a year, okay, after giving a notification within a year, government can again come up and give an explanation to that notification. Wait. That notification after within a year it can come after displaying that notification. Wait. This notification was meant for these people. Please don't misguide yourself. And such clarification, such explanation will be 100% valid if it is given within a year of giving the notification. Now read, now you'll understand this. See, explanation inserted within a year for the purpose of clarifying the scope or applicability of any notification or order to have retrospective effect. So even after the government is coming within a year, say 9 month, 10 month, 11 month, the explanation can have a retrospective effect. So whoever have taken a wrong benefit of that exemption, they have to again pay the tax, because the explanation given here has a retrospective effect right from the date of notification. Okay, so please remember, this can be one of the beautiful MCQ in your question, that government has given some notification and what is the time period in which they can come up with the explanation, and there can be 4 options. Option A, 6 months, option 2, 1 year, option 3, 1.5 year, or none of the above. So here you have to remember, government can come up to a year and can give an explanation, and this explanation will have a retrospective effect right from the date of the notification. Okay. Thereafter, wherever the government feels that there is a need to clarify the scope or applicability of any notification order issued this section, it can issue an explanation within a year of issue of said notification. Such explanation shall have effect as if it was there when the first notification order was issued. That is explanation so inserted would have a retrospective effect. Okay, so that's how government can come up with an exemption and an explanation within a year, having a retrospective effect, and it can definitely help or affect a lot of people who have misguided them or who haven't taken the notification exactly how the government meant it. Okay, so here was our background for exemption. The very quick thing, let's quickly take it. First thing, what are covered under exemption? Yes guys, three things: nil rated goods, specifically exempted, and non-taxable. NEN, nil rated, exempted, non-taxable. NEN, you can simply remember this way. Okay, let me see your queries and then we'll proceed to the exempted goods and services. Yes, Ayush, exactly. Unless mention, everything here is covered under GST. Perfect. Vijay Shankar, thank you so much. I am standing because the energy comes here when I am standing. So it's more good to teach while I am standing. Thank you so much for your concern. Manish, sir, please explain again special order. Okay, Manish is saying, sir, please again give a highlight on special order. So Manish, when I am talking about special order, government in certain specific cases under an exceptional circumstances. Okay, just take an example. It won't be 100% correct. Just take an example. Say in COVID terms, nobody is there ready to meet. Okay, or there are certain cases government are not able to normally they are not able to give the notification. So here again, but on the recommendation of council, they can in certain cases they can come here with an exemption by a special order in certain specific cases. Okay, so both ways, in exceptional cases by special order, in normal cases by notification. Okay, now let's move to the next part. The next part, which we are going to talk about, the exempt goods and services. Another interesting part here. Now, and ending with a very good note. Okay, don't worry, just wait for the good note. Firstly, let's talk about goods exempt. Now, see, exemption definition I have said you very clearly. Three things. First, nil rated. Second, exempt, which are specifically provided, and third, non-taxable. Now, first and third we already know. Now we are going to discuss the second thing, which supply of goods or services are given as an exemption here. Okay, so here first let's talk about goods. Under GST, everyday items used by common man have been included in the list of exempt item. Now here GST has been drafted amazingly. They have given an exemption in certain types of goods which are used in everyday normal life. So any normal person which thinks he are going to use in his daily normal life, the same are exempted. But yes, government has specifically provided which are these goods. Items such as unbranded atta. Please wait, take a pause here. Unbranded atta means if the atta is branded, then it is going to be taxable. But an unbranded atta, you just go to any flour mill, collect 1 kg, 2 kg, 5 kg of atta from him, no GST will be applicable. But if you go to any multi store and you purchase a branded atta of, there are different types of brand here, right? We can see an advertisement of Ashirwad atta and all. And if you are purchasing such type of atta, branded atta, GST is applicable. Similarly, it is for maida, basin and everything. If they are unbranded, no GST. If they are branded, GST will be applicable. Unpacked fruit grains, milk, eggs, curd, lassi and fresh vegetables. Yes, if you are going to the morning market, have you ever seen that any of the vegetable seller is charging you GST? Arre sir, 50 rupees ka onion and 10 rupees GST. Obviously not, because government has taken care of a very average person that his daily necessity things should not be covered under GST, because they don't want to collect tax. They don't want to put the burden. If you remember, the indirect taxes motive is to put the burden on the end consumer. And government has taken care enough, or Indian government has taken care enough that they don't put the unnecessary burden on the average people here. So yeah, all milk, curd, lassi, fresh vegetables are among the items which are exempted from GST. Also you can see live fish, fresh milk, potatoes, grapes, Indian national flag, some plastic bangles are some of the examples of goods which are exempt. So are only this many goods exempt? No. There is a long list of goods which are exempt from tax. Fortunately, this list haven't been incorporated in your syllabus, or else your 1 or 2 books would be full of the goods which are exempt from tax. So if you want to take a detailed study, if you want to go a detailed look, which I will be specifically saying, please do after your exams. Do all research work should be done after the exam. Okay, so do such detailed study after your exams, and you can go to the goods exempt list and you can take them from the GST website. But for our institute purpose, if you remember this much, it's more than enough. Okay, in case of goods, okay, because there is a long list and this many goods which are given are sufficient enough for your examination purpose. Okay, so unbranded atta, maida, besan, daily necessities, vegetable, curd, lassi, milk, grain, food grains and everything are specifically exempt goods given. Okay. Interesting thing is now when we comes to the next part, services which are exempt from tax, and this is 100% applicable, and every service we have to learn here, which is given into your CA intermediate syllabus. Okay, services, certain services. Now government has specifically said that these services we are getting exemption. Rest of every service is going to be taxable. Okay, so let's see here which services are there. The first part under this service is your service related to your charitable and religious activities. Okay, another very interesting thing. Again, let's sum up whatever you have done till now. Okay, we have seen exemption definition. We have seen how or which things, how can government come to exemption? By notification, special order, how exemption can be given to supplier, to recipient, to activity, or to both, right? And then you have seen that the exemption here for particular criteria, say charitable goods, for exemption of goods, you have already seen. And now we are to the next part, which is the big part about exemption of supply of certain services. In these services, the first service which you are going to learn is services related to charitable and religious activity. Now see, remember here what I said you, how can government come with an exemption? By saying any activity is exempt. And see, this is the first activity they have said that it is exempt. Please read it. Services related to charitable and religious activity. So anyone doing charitable and religious activity can take an benefit of this exemption if they satisfy certain criteria. Now what's the criteria? Let's take a look upon this. Yes, please read this. It is the entry number 1. Okay, now your question must be maybe there, sir, see, exemptions are given by different kind of entries and there are entry numbers. Okay, it's great enough. Okay, it's great enough if you learn the entry numbers. But even if you don't learn the entry numbers, it's good enough. Okay, I will specifically recommend you that rather than learning on entry number, go for learning the different items, and there you have so many things to do. Okay, but in the meantime, if you are feasible enough to learn entry number as well, then go for that. But please don't mention the wrong entry number in your exam. If you are confident enough, then and then only mention the entry number, or even if you don't mention, don't worry. Okay, so here entry number 1, provided that services by an entity registered under section 12AA of the Income Tax Act 1961 by way of charitable, sorry, that's not activities, it is activities. Okay, so here they have said, wait, to come under this exemption, first go under income tax, register your charitable trust under section 12AA of Income Tax Act. See, they have linked the direct and indirect tax here. Rather than again giving a burden from indirect tax that come under us, again register with us and do everything, they have said, no, don't worry. Go in Income Tax Act, or if you are registered in Income Tax Act, according to section 12AA, no worries, you can take the benefit of the exemption here. Okay, so what is section 12A of Income Tax Act? So section 12A of Income Tax Act gives the registration to charitable trust for their charitable purpose. Okay, and that registration of income tax, again I'm saying that registration of income tax is valid for your exemption in your GST as well. Okay, so two conditions here that are must be satisfied to claim this exemption. The first is he should be, or the trust should be registered under the section 12AA of the Income Tax Act. And the next one, the entity must carry out one or more of the specified charitable activities. Now this is an interesting thing. Now, when you are going to income tax, for taking the registration under section 12AA, income tax department asks you that, okay, you came to us for registration, please say what kind of trust you are and what services you intend to give. Okay, we as a charitable trust said that, okay sir, we are into certain things and we give this certain charitable, and we provide this, we do certain charitable activities. Income tax says fine enough, we'll give registration. Now this is beautifully drawn in your GST as well. They say the charitable trust doing the specified charitable activities which they have specified at the time of registration, these activities will be only exempt. So if a charitable trust have specified any XYZ activity and doing ABCD activity, exemption is not applicable. Whatever activities you have mentioned in your 12AA registration, and if you are carrying out the same, the exemption will be given to you. Very clear? So that, see why this is being given, because nowadays the charitable trusts are not into their own business and they're going in each and every business, right? So to control this, to have a control over this, to have a control over exemption, they have said you should be practicing the specified charitable activities which you give all the type of registration. Okay, now the interesting thing comes here. Sir, what are charitable activities? Anyone can come up with any definition of charitable activity, right? So the another important thing was to define the charitable activities. See here, first, while defining the first activity, which they have said while defining charitable activity is if, so see here, if any charitable trust, even though registered under Income Tax Act under section 12AA, please remember this, it is very good thing to mention in your exam papers, okay? Any charitable act which is registered under section 12AA, so much easy. 12AA, yes, please recite with me. 12AA of Income Tax Act does the things, charitable activities. What are the charitable activities now? So first, public health by way of in the public health. Okay, so if any charitable organization is in public health, sir, again, public health, such an vague term here. Public health. So public health, A, care or counseling of first terminally ill person or person with severe physical or mental disability. Again, I'm saying A, care or counseling of first terminally ill person. So if you are a charitable trust, you are doing charitable activity. What are charitable activity? First, what are allowed charitable activity? First, public health. How public health? So if you are taking care or you are giving counseling to any ill person which is having severe physical or mental disability. This is the first allowed charitable activity. Okay. Second, persons affected with HIV or AIDS. Again, if you are doing care or counseling of the persons which are affected with HIV or AIDS. Third, care or counseling of persons addicted to a dependence forming substance such as narcotics, drugs, or alcohol. So these three things will be considered under public health and will be allowed under your charitable activity if any charitable trust undertakes the same. Okay, so please just go through this and remember this once nicely. Enough, it's enough if you remember this one. You don't want to recite it or ratify it. Okay, very simple. You're taking care of ill which are from severe or mental disability, taking care or counseling of HIV or AIDS affected persons, and the third, someone who is dependent upon the narcotics or drugs. This will be considered under the public health. B, public awareness of preventing health, family planning or prevention of HIV infection. Even this will be considered under public health. Okay, very clear, guys? Just a minute. Okay, so the first part of activity of charitable trust comes to end here, which talks about public health, taking care or counseling of three things, and doing an awareness program also comes under the public health. Any queries so far? Let me check for your queries. Just a minute. Okay. Sir, example, supplier, supply. Yes, Shamim, it's absolutely correct. If you're under 1 year from your notification and you're giving explanation, it has a retrospective effect. No issue. It will be a right thing done by government. Thereafter, Sanjay. Sanjay has asked that implies GST is applicable on milk sold in plastic packets, Tetra packs. Yes, it can be applicable on these all things. Okay, but right now, please focus and be exam oriented because exam is just 2 months ahead. So simply unblended atta, milk and everything will be exempt. Other thing can be taxable. Next, Shamim have asked, exemption available only. Just a minute. Sir, exemption available only in registration 12AA, not registration, no exemption. Yes, if you are registered under section 12AA, under charitable trust, then and then only you will have an exemption. Still, if you are doing the charitable activities then, or else if you are registering 12AA and you are doing all other activities, no exemption. First criteria, you should be registered. Second criteria, you should be doing charitable activities. Okay. Please, if you have any queries, post it. I'm taking the same. So those who ever liable to take exemption but didn't take, can they be given exemption for the period when they did not take exemption? If you will be knowing, or you won't be knowing till now, you can amend your return until a year. Just roughly, I'm giving you an idea because again, this is a detailed topic which you'll learn later on. So until a year, you can amend your returns and you can take the exemption. If a year passed thereupon, okay, the next September month or annual return date, filing date passed, then you can't take the same. Sir, live fish, and if not, okay. Shivam Rajput has said, sir, live fish, and if not, so say live fish, it will come and like unprocessed fish, okay, live fish or even a dead fish. No problem, it will be an exempt from GST. But if it is further processed and then it is sold, then the GST would be there. Next, awareness program on preventive from dengue. Okay, Manish has the most upcoming topic, has asked the query about the upcoming topic. Sir, what about dengue? If anyone does the awareness program about dengue, then okay, Manish. See here, strictly speaking about public health, with an exemption provided here, it won't be considered an exemption. But as the organization will be charitable trust doing all public health things, it can be considered as an awareness program. See, now this will be in your preventive health. Okay, awareness of preventive health. So it will be, you take off dengue, you take off malaria, or you do whatever you want to do, take on awareness program. If it is in relation to preventive health, it is allowed and the exemption will be given to you. Okay, so this was the first part of charitable activity. Let's come to the next part. Yeah, just a minute. Yeah, the next part of charitable activity is advancement of religion, spirituality, or yoga. So if there is any organization which is under, firstly, please don't forget this thing. To come under this exemption of charitable trust, the first and the most important, or you can say the entry ticket. The exemption entry ticket is that you should be covered and registered under section 12A of Income Tax Act. If and only if you are registered under section 12A of Income Tax, that is your entry ticket, and then only you can come and claim the exemption further on. So the second part here comes is if any trust is in advancement of religion, spirituality, or yoga. Okay, it's very simple. You are doing any religious activity, you are taking any spiritual activity, there are now certain things, very so many courses are going on spiritual things as well, or else even if you are practicing or taking yoga. Okay, so even if you are taking yoga, that will be considered under charitable activity and you will be given an exemption. Now here a small question for you, please answer me this. I, being chartered accountant, from tomorrow I have started yoga classes. Say me, will I get exemption or not? Yes, I am waiting for your answers. Yes, Manisha, COVID-19 will be also included there. Dengue, malaria, COVID, whatever public health is there, it will be included. Now please answer me what I have said to you. Being chartered accountant, I have started yoga classes which is well covered in charitable activities. Will I get the exemption or not? Yes? Come on, quickly answer me. CA Sumit Maru taking yoga classes will be getting the exemption or not? Yes, Rahul has said perfect thing. Yes, Sahil. Yes, Shivani, Ayush. Isha, you are mistaken here. Shivani is right. Okay, see, it's absolutely correct. Most of you are giving a correct answer. I won't get an exemption until I have a registration under section 12A under a charitable trust. Right? So perfect. Being a chartered accountant, if I'm starting a yoga classes, sir, no exemption to you. Okay? That's superb. So you are clear with the basic things here. See, these basic things only create the problem or a confusion in your exams. So be clear. First thing, exemption लेके आओ भाई. Exemption लेके आओगे तो आगे की बात करेंगे. नहीं तो आप भी भूल जाओ, हम भी भूल जाए. Okay. Next, the third part for charitable activity is advancement of education. Now, please, everyone, pay attention to each point mentioned here. Read it on. Yeah. Advancement of educational program, skill development relating to. Now, if an organization, a charitable organization is doing an educational program or a skill development program relating to these four things, then and then only the exemption will be given to them as well. Now, what are these four things here? Let's see this. First, abandoned or orphaned or homeless children. So here we are doing an educational program or a skill development program for an abandoned you can say children's, orphan children's, or a homeless children. Then exemption will be given to you. It will be considered under charitable activities and hence you will be given an exemption. Or if you are doing these programs for a physically or mentally abused and traumatized person, So if any person or any organization, or you get to know any of the particular area where there are certain people who are physically or mentally abused or traumatized, and you are giving a skill development program to them, you are giving an educational program to them, then again you can claim an exemption here. Next, prisoners. So if you go in prisons and you can take their skill development educational programs, well enough, again you will be given an exemption. And the last and the important thing, which can be again your MCQ question, person over the age of 65 years residing in rural area. Now the D point itself have two important points. First, they should be 65 plus years, right? And the second, they should be in rural area. Both are mandatory conditions. So if you are taking an education program for 70, 80, 90 age people, but in an urban place, in Pune, in Bombay, in Delhi, no exemption to you. But if you are taking this program in a rural place, any particular small village, any rural place, again now sir, what are rural places? So please go to any respective act and see what are the rural areas, and we are taking the programs in the such rural areas. Again, it should be for 65 plus years, either 65 or 65 plus year age, the exemption will be applicable. So two things important here is rural place and 65 years of age. If you are taking a skill program in rural place but for the young people, won't be considered. Okay, again I'm repeating this. This was the third part of your charitable activity where you are taking the educational program or the skill development program for 4 different kind of people. First, abandoned, orphan or homeless children, physically, mentally abused or traumatized person, prisoners, or 65 plus in rural areas. Clear everyone? Yes? Any queries in this? Yes, see, I said you, whatever things we're discussing till now, entry ticket is 12AA. Registration of 12AA is your entry ticket. If that is there, then and then only exemption will be given to you. After Shikha, just a minute. Yeah. Sir, if we are doing charitable activity without registration and without consideration, it will be counted? Oh, very really. Aish, superb question. Ayush has asked this question. I'm reading for all of you. Son, if we are doing charitable activity without registration and without registering, AA of Income Tax Act. Next, the next thing he asked is that, where that gone? Just a minute. And without consideration, sir. So see, here you have to go into definition of supply. In supply, you must have learned that consideration is important thing to charge GST. If there is no consideration, then no GST. Exemption का तो सवाल ही नहीं होता है जब consideration ही नहीं है. Because on what you will charge GST? No consideration, no GST. Forget it. But if you are charging even a minimum consideration and you don't have registration entry ticket of 12AA, you have to charge them GST. Your teaching is awesome. Thank you so much, Rahul. Traumatized person. I had 2 questions now. What is abandoned, sir, and what is traumatized? I will take that both queries. Don't worry. Rural area definition given in income tax will apply here or not? Are income tax में rural area की definition नहीं दी है. Income tax now said very clearly. Please go and refer Income Tax Act. हम कितनों का बोझा उठाए? Okay. So rural area definition you can go and you can search on, even it is given in your notes as well. Okay, you can see that certain area where the population is this and that, or it is so far or whatever here, so that will be considered here. and please don't relate this to income tax. Income tax is different, GST is different. Okay, only 12A ticket has been taken here. The next is person or counselor personally visiting jail and giving lecture or whatever, and not a trust or individual person. See, individual person, say I have become tomorrow a motivational lecturer. Okay, I started a YouTube channel. Amazingly, I'm doing the motivation lecture. Everyone, and now the jail people have asked me to come here and give the motivation lecture to them as well. I have charged a handsome amount of 1 lakh rupees to them. I have to charge GST as well because I'm not registered under section 12A. Entry ticket. So it should be compulsorily there with you. Okay, now coming back to the topic, I had 2 queries here. One is, sir, what is abandoned? See, abandoned means something which is left behind. Okay, something which is left, you can say. So we can see that if I leave this pen, you are able to see this pen. Yes, now you'll be able to see. Okay, if I leave this pen here, it's at some particular road or anything, it is abandoned. So if there is any children which are abandoned, which are left behind by their parents, and you are giving the training to them, it's great enough. It will be charitable activity. The next is traumatized person. Traumatized person which are you can say in a sort of depression. Okay, they are very they have been what we can say दुनिया के बोझ तले दबे हुए वो लोग. Okay, so that is your traumatized person. You can say, you can go for the definition of Google, and such person, if you are giving a motivational lecture to all of them, it's a superb thing you are doing. Okay, let's come to the 4th and the last part here, which is environment, preservation of environment, including watershed, forest, and wildlife. Okay, so if you are in the activities of preserving our mother nature, okay, which including watersheds, if you are making the watersheds for the water blocking and everything, if you are doing any good thing for forest or any wildlife, super enough, you are welcome in our charitable trust exemption. Shart, entry ticket 12A. Okay, so does any other services provided by charitable trust will be chargeable tax? Now say, sir, I have an entry ticket of 12A. Great enough, sir. Superb. But I am doing some other activity mentioned from this 4. No exemption for you. Because we want 2 basic things. Entry ticket, and you should be covered under one of the 4 things which were discussed. The first one, let's revise quickly, let's revise it. First one was of health, right? Second one was of, yes, religion, spirituality, yoga. Third one was of your education program for 4 different people: abandoned, orphaned, physically or mentally abused, traumatized, prisoners, or person 65 years. Please don't forget this one. This is a very beautiful question. MCQ, this can be there. 60, because there are 2 things in this one condition: 65 years plus, as well as rural area. Okay, hence I've taken this image for your nicely remembrance. Okay, please remember this. See, you can see all these people are from a rural area and 65 plus as well. Okay, and the last one is preservation of environment, which can be including watersheds, forest. Let me check any queries here. उनके पापा मम्मी ने छोड़ दिया उन्हें. Yes, Shivani, perfect. Abandoned are certain person जिनके पापा मम्मी ने छोड़ दिया उन्हें. Okay, superb. Okay, no queries so far, guys. Just a minute. Okay, let's continue. We'll have a break at 8 now. After 5 to 10 minutes, we'll have a break. Okay, don't worry, I will give you a break. Once we complete the charitable activity first part, I will give you a break of 10 minutes. Okay, next. Now there are certain questions, or you can say certain cases, which we'll discuss. Management of education institution by charitable trust. Now say if any charitable trust is having an education institution, activities of schools, college, or any other education institution run by charitable trust by way of education or skill development of abandoned, just a minute, abandoned, orphans, homeless children, physically or mentally abused person, prisoners, or person over age of 65 years above residing in rural area, will be considered as charitable activities, and income from such supplies will wholly exempt from GST. So if you are registered under 12A of Income Tax Act and you are doing this education institution program and you are doing the education institution for all of these people, the 4 things we have mentioned and we have discussed, great enough, you will be given an exemption. Further, activities of school, college or an institution run by trust which do not come within the ambit of charitable activity will not be exempt under entry 1. Now here interesting thing is there. We are talking about the educational institution. So if sir, any educational institution is doing some else work rather than mentioned here, then what? Sir, we are a good organization. Okay, and we are schools, we are high schools, pre-primary schools, secondary schools, and we are giving education to students. So GST will be applicable to us because here the students are neither in all the 4 categories. So here entry 1 doesn't provide them exemption, but there is an entry number 66 which we are going to learn later on, which specifically provides the exemption. So see, there are all different entries given. Okay, after learning all, you will able to understand which entry can be used for taking an exemption for which particular purpose. Okay, so here please remember, exemption for education institution which are doing normal education activities is not given in entry number 1. It is given in some else entry. Again, please don't take pressure of these entries. Okay, you have to just remember the provisions. That's perfect enough. Just a minute. Yeah, next, sir, hostel accommodation provided by trust. There may be a certain type of trust which gives you hostel accommodation as well. So hostel accommodation services provided by trust to students do not fall within the ambit of charitable activity as defined above. Okay, so if any organization is also giving the hostel accommodations, it is not covered under charitable activity. Please remain specific to what mentioned. Don't put your interpretation. Law has been already given. Okay, you have to just follow the same. Don't put your interpretation in that or bring any new thing with it. But here you have to remember, however, accommodation service in hostel, including such services provided by trust. So if any trust is providing hostel accommodation services and they are charging 1,000 per day or less, it will be exempt under entry number 14. And if they are charging more than 1,000 per day, it will be taxable. So any trust providing a hostel accommodation charging 1,000 or less, exempt. 1,000 or more, taxable. Thereafter, services by special organization in respect of religious pilgrimage facilitated by Government of India under bilateral agreement. Okay, now this is the next entry number 60, which says that if certain things are facilitated by Government of India, certain pilgrimage, pilgrimage, the religious tours are facilitated by Government of India under the bilateral agreement of 2 different countries, that will be also covered in exemption. Entry number 60. Now, what are the such things which are facilitated by Government of India? Are only 2 things here. The first, services provided by Hajj Committee and Kumaon Mandal Vikas Nigam Limited, a government of Uttarakhand undertaking in relation to pilgrimage. So until now, these 2 things, the 2 facilitative things, tours by government has been given. So these 2 things are given as an exemption. Okay, so if anyone is taking any activities, providing any activities in relation to Hajj, which are in terms with the Hajj committee, there is a Hajj committee who specifies these tours, and the next is KMVN, this will be not liable to GST. So these 2 religious to pilgrimage, one by Hajj committee, another by KMVN, Kumano Mandal Vikas Nigam Limited. Please remember this, Kumaon Mandal Vikas Nigam Limited will be exempt from GST. Next, entry number 80 provides you training or coaching in recreational activities. Services by way of training or coaching in recreational activities. Now see, please remember, entry number 1, the entry ticket of 12AA has been done. Okay, that was for 4 different activities mentioned there. Now these are different entries altogether. Here no 12AA entry ticket is required because they themselves give an entry. Okay, so now the next entry is entry number 80. if you are in under training or coaching for any recreational activities. Now, what are recreational activities? Say art or culture or sports by charitable or or sports. But again, this sports is only for the charitable trust under 12AA. This will be again considered as an exemption. So if you are providing, say I am providing a coaching in any recreational art, culture or anything, it will be again covered in a new exemption here. But if you are under sports, okay, by charitable activity, so then you have to again take a registration under section 12AA. Okay. Thereafter, the next just a minute. Yes. The next part is, see, these were all things which were learned services by charitable trust. Okay. So services by charitable trust are exempt in certain following cases which were learned. But services to charitable trust, say I am doing an audit of a particular charitable trust, will the exemption will be given to me? No. I have to charge GST. I have to collect GST from the charitable trust. So please remember, exemption in relation to charitable trust are given when the services are provided by charitable trust. If someone is providing service to charitable trust, it is 100% taxable. Okay, clear everyone? Once again, let's quickly revise. Charitable trust, entry ticket 12AA. Second thing, you should be there in 4 different criteria. First one was public health. Second one was religious thing, yoga, spirituality. Third one was, what was the third one? Yes, 4 different things for educational or skill program, abundant or fund, right? Thereafter, we have also seen for 65 plus rural areas and more 2 different criteria, physically or mentally traumatized people, right? And prisoners. 4th thing which we have learned, which was applicable was for, yes, what the 4th thing? Yes, our environment, right? Mother nature. That we are seeing entry number 60, the religious pilgrimage, 2 things by Hajj committee and by KMVNL. Okay, and coaching a recreational activity, again that will be an exemption. So these were the services which are provided by trust. Exemption will be there. 2 taxable trusts, no exemption will be there. Okay, hereafter we have done almost part of the charitable trust. The most important part is still remaining. Very interesting, and we are going to take it in a very interesting way, which we'll remember forever. Okay, but वो हम देखेंगे break के बाद. Okay, so let's take a 10 minutes break here, guys. Just let him wait a minute. Let me ask the tech support team. Yes, sir. Can we take a break for 10 minutes here? Okay. So yes, guys, back from the break. So we are on the discussion of the charitable trust, and I have said you, if charitable trust is providing certain services, they are going to be exempt. But if someone else is providing them, please don't even think of exemption. After the next part for the charitable trust is your, just a second. Yes, by conduct of any religious ceremony. Amount charged by whatever name called for conduct of any religious ceremony is exempt. So anyone, okay, not only charitable trust here, but anyone who is conducting any religious ceremony, any religious, okay, we don't have to define any particular religion here. Any religious ceremony, if you are conducting, then again the exemption is there with you. So here they have explained further. Religious ceremonies are life cycle rituals, including special religious pujas conducted in terms of religious text by persons authorized by such religious text. So they haven't defined anyone by because GST is no one to define these religious persons, okay? And if you sit and define, so there will be thousands of so many things will be there. Still there will be some inclusion and exclusion. And then another rallies and everything will be there. So GST has simply said, if you are following any religious text, that is Bhagavad Gita, Quran, or you can say Bible, or anything you have, Granth Sahib, if you are following a religious text, the religious text itself says you who are the authorized person to conduct this religious ceremony. And if you are doing this on the variety of occasions like birth, marriage, death, involves elaborate religious ceremonies. So here, these religious ceremonies will be again exempt from tax. The next part of the religious exemption. Okay, and the third and the most important part in respect of your examination, because a practical question can come from this part, is renting. And someone also asked me question, sir, if someone gives the hall on rent or something like that, then what happens? So here, if there is renting of the precincts of religious place meant for general public. So say here they have said you, there is any religious place they are giving on rent. There are different things are there and they are giving them on rent. Then what about exemption, sir? Here, when they are saying the precincts of religious place, so please don't be very rude with this. Don't take only the temple premises. Precincts mean generally take the outside boundary of that particular place. Okay, and in this certain place, if they are renting anything, so what about exemption in this case? So this we'll see with one beautiful drawing of me, which I'm going to drawing here. Just a minute. Yes. Okay. Now please everyone pay attention. Here we are going to learn the last part of the charitable trust exemption here. So say this is the. In the meantime, if you have any queries, please post the same, because once I'm done with this, I'm going to take the same. Okay, so same. This is the religious precincts. And for our example, we'll have a temple here. Okay, there is a gate. Okay, further, this temple also has some halls here, or you can say rooms. So there are a variety of rooms here. Also, so here there are rooms, as well as there is a hall. And you must have seen there are so many shops generally in the boundary of the particular temple. So there are these shops here. Shops. Okay, now this temple trust, what it does is they give these rooms, they give the hall for marriage purpose and the shops on rent. And this is where our exemptions come into place. So here in our exemption, they have said you, if the particular organization is charging 1,000 or more in case of room per day. Please remember, 1000 or more. If they're charging for one particular room per day, it is taxable. That means less than 1000 non-taxable, 1000 or more per day per room taxable. Next, if they are giving this hall on rent and they are collecting 10,000 or more, again per day, it will be taxable. So very simple, rooms 1000 or more per day taxable, hall or particular some area, if they are giving on rent 10,000 or more per day, again taxable. And the last part is for shops. They have mentioned the limit for shops as well. So now shops are generally given for per month basis, right? So common sense will take here the per month here. So if they're charging 10,000 or more per month, again this will be taxable. So please remember, these limits are including that particular number, 1000 or more per day in case of rooms, halls 10,000 per day or more again, and shops 10,000 or more per month. So if someone is charging 999, no taxability. Someone is charging for hall 9,999, no taxability. Someone charging for the shop, some premises is charging for the shops 9,000, say 9,000 rupees only per month rent, no tax will be there and exemption will be provided to you. So please remember this with one short diagram, very simple, rooms 1000 limit or more, halls 10,000 or more, and the shops again 10,000 or more. Let me take you towards the PPT. Okay. So see, so above mentioned exemption is not applicable if the renting of rooms were charged 1000 or more. So exemption not applicable if the consideration is 1000 or more for rooms, for premises, community hall, whatever you call it. Premises, say if you are giving a ground on rent, if you are giving the community hall on rent, if you are giving the Kalyan Mandapam, which is also known as South India, okay, or open area and the like, open area, but it should be in the precincts of the religious place, okay, and you are charging 10,000 or more per day, no exemption. Renting of shops or other spaces for business or commerce where charges are 10,000 or more per month. So again, exemption is not applicable. So if you are under this limit, exemption is applicable for you. You do not need to collect tax and charge tax. Whereas if you are on this limit or above this limit, you need to charge the tax and collect the same. Okay, clear everyone? Please post your queries quickly. I will take your queries and then we'll proceed further. Okay, just a minute. Sir, if parents are abandoned, see, Nishma, parents are abandoned, so that specifically says abandoned orphaned children. That is for children. Let's stay till children only. Okay. Thereafter, Sushil Kumar, Sushil has said very interesting way to express. Thank you so much, Sushil. Then Shamim, sir. Accommodation in Dharamshala exempt. So that's what I have said just right now. If there is Dharamshala and they are charging 1000 or more, it will be taxable. Less, it will be exempt. Next is Vijay Shankar, who has asked, sir, to have a retrospective effect for an explanation to entry in notification, it has to be inserted within a year of issue of notification. But if the explanation is inserted after a year from the date of issue of notification, it will have no. See, if the insertion of an explanation is after a year of notification, it can't have a retrospective effect. Okay, it can't have a retrospective effect for that. Clear? Thereafter, Isha sir, what is the meaning of precincts? See, precincts is simply the premises, you can say. Okay, the area, आजू बाजू की जगह और बाउंड्री के अंदर, आस पास, the same area. Okay. Yes, Namrata, I answered the same. Rahul Awaz sir, is registration mandatory here? No, there is no registration mandatory here. You should be only a religious thing, a religious place, and you are giving it on rent. यहाँ पे 12A का ticket की कोई जरूरत नहीं है. Okay. Next, all exemption are in the hand of owner of land, room, hotel or shop. Yes, and the owner of this should be a religious, religious entity. Okay, there should not any personal or private entity here. Thereafter, if amount exceeds the prescribed limit, then whole amount will be taxable. Yes, absolutely. Mansha, if amount is above this 10,000 or 1,000, the complete amount is going to be taxable. You have to charge the tax and you have to collect the tax from the customers. Thereafter, sir, now I understood the basics meaning. Superb, Isha. Thank you. Okay, sir, your teaching was awesome. Namrata, thank you so much, Namrata. Okay, let's come back to our PPT. So this was about your religious place, and here our first part of religious place comes to end. A very interesting thing, in first part we have seen this. We are going to revise this again at the end of the class. Okay, now there are some quick questions given in your study material itself. Let's quickly take it and let's see if you are able to answer the same or not. Okay, just a minute. Here, first, Durga Devi Trust, a religious trust registered under section 12A. So you should be clear now. He got the ticket for the entry in the exemption of charitable activity. Now, second thing, see, you should be at the very same time, you should analyze the same thing. And at the same time, don't forget to read the complete question. Or else in a very excitement, you will start writing your answer and then you'll get to know or if something else was asked there. Okay, so here we got to know entry ticket is there. Let's see, is the charitable activity they are doing or not. Owns and manages a temple in their locality. Great. It rents the commercial shops located in the precincts of the temple for a rent of 10,000 per month. Come on, quickly answer me. They are charging 10,000 rupees per month. Exemption will be there or not? Will it be taxable or not? Yes, I want your answers quickly. 10,000 rupees is the per month rent. Perfect. Here it is going to be taxable. As we know, it should be below 10,000 to get the exemption limit. If it is 10,000 or more, exemption is not applicable. You have to charge the tax and you have to collect the tax. Perfect. Second question. Sarviksha Foundation, an educational institute registered under section 1023C5 of the Income Tax Act. Fine, no problem. Owns and manages a Gurudwara. It rents the community hall located in the precincts of the Gurudwara for a rent of 9,000 per day. Yes, guys? What do you think now? Gurudwara, see, don't get confused with the thing who are going to manage this. Gurudwara, religious place, giving on rent 9,000 rupees per day, a hall for a marriage function. Yes? 9,000 is within our limit and it is absolutely exempt. Perfect. Okay, let's come to the next part now. Now the interesting part. Agriculture related services exemption. Now we are going to see a very simple part. See, exemption topic is really very simple and a scoring topic for you. Okay, now the next part of the chapter comes to exemptions which are related to the agriculture related services. Here I am taking the very first entry number 54 because that is the biggest entry and the rest of entries are very simple here. Entry 54 suggests services relating to cultivation of plants and rearing of all life forms of animals. Please pay attention here. Very interesting thing here. Cultivation of plants and rearing of all life form animals. Any animal, if you are rearing the same, it will be here considered, except, please remember this word, except the rearing of horses. Okay, so if you are rearing any form of animals except horses. Why, sir? Why horses are left behind? Because we assume horses are generally, GST generally assumes that horses are generally owned by rich people, and we do not want to extend the exemption to such rich people because they can easily pay the tax. Okay, and not only the rich people, it also connects again with the horse riding and everything. Okay, so here horses are specifically excluded. Please remember here, horses are specifically excluded for the agriculture related definition. Other all animals, if you are rearing hens, if you have cows, if you have bullock, whatever it would be there, goat, everything will be considered, as well as the cultivation of plants and as well as cultivation of all kinds of plant. For what? For the purpose for this is food. Yeah, food, fiber. Okay, food. If you are cultivating the goods, if you are cultivating plants or the animals for the food purpose, for the fiber purpose, say for woolen, just like if you are rearing the goats for the ship for the wool, fuel. If you are using your cow or something for traveling one place to another place, raw material or other similar product or agriculture produce by way of. So exemption here says in entry 54 that if you are cultivating any plants or rearing all forms of animal except, yes, what except horses, by way of. So now this is the general statement given to you. Now they have said you different kinds of things where the exemption will be applicable. The first would be the first would be if you are using cultivating plant or rearing the animals except horses for agricultural operation directly related to the production of any agriculture produce, including cultivation, harvesting, threshing. Just a minute. See here. Now they have said you, if you are having, see, the first thing they have said you, animals, or you are cultivating the crops. Okay. And further, by way of agriculture operation directly related to production of any agriculture produce. This is another important thing which you are going to look upon. Okay. Including cultivation, harvesting, threshing, plant protection or testing. So if you are cultivating any crops, if you are having any animals for the agriculture produce which are directly related to agriculture produce, exemption will be given to you. Okay, so like whatever things you are doing, cultivating of animals, cultivating of plants or rearing of animals for the direct relation to the agriculture produce. It may include cultivating to grow them, harvesting to firstly to make them, threshing to cut them, or protecting or testing them. This will be exempt. Now, sir, everything is fine. It's very normal thing which you understood till now, that whatever things you do for the agriculture produce which are directly related, it will be exempt. What is agriculture produce? Most interesting thing here. Let's learn. Let's first read definition given here in your books. Agriculture produce on which either, please pay attention here on the wordings, on which either no further processing is done or such processing is done is usually done by cultivator or producer, which does not alter its essential characteristics but make it marketable for primary market. Please read it once again. Read it at your end and try to analyze it at your end. I'm giving you a half-minute time. Read it once again with your complete concentration. You should able to interpret the same. First thing they have said that there should be no further processing. Second thing they have said, okay, you do certain processes, but which should not alter the essential characteristics and make it marketable in the primary market. This, I'll give you some hint. Please read it once. Okay. So now here, while defining agriculture produce, they have very intelligently said that we will consider anything as agriculture produce only and only when you don't do any further processing upon that. So if you take out the onions, keep it as it is. If you are bringing out the tomatoes, keep it as it is. If you are bringing the potatoes, keep it as it is. Please don't do any further processing over that. First point very clear. Going further, they have said you, but still there are certain things on which the further processing is necessary, sir, or we can't sell them in the market, in the primary market, where the farmers sell their produce. Okay, not retail markets, primary market. So such things, the basic things, okay, if it is necessary to carry out so that it can be saleable in the primary market, it should be done by the cultivator or the producer himself. Then we will say it agriculture produce. So when they are saying agriculture produce, first thing they have said, bhai kuch karna hi nahi hai. There is nothing that should be done here over the general producing. For the processing, nothing should be done. But still, if it is compulsory to do that, then it should be done by the cultivator or the producer himself. Then we will say that particular produce as a agriculture produce here. Okay, don't worry, we are going to see example here. Just an example, say we have made your chips. Say me, chips. Will be your the potato chips? Will this be considered as your agriculture produce? Absolutely no. Because the primary thing you take on the potato, you done the further processing and then you made the chips. Not to be considered here, agriculture produce. Tomato ketchup, again not to be considered here. Okay, so if you are doing any further processing which alters the main essential of that particular thing, okay, which alters the himself, the potato I change it completely into the chips. So again, then see, these things won't be considered agriculture produce. But you take out the potatoes and you just clean it. You have to clean it. Obviously, it is all in mud. You have to clean that mud so it is saleable in the primary market. It's absolutely fine. Then this will be an exempt. But if you do the further processing, we change the essential characteristics of that particular thing, then the things are not to be considered under the exemption, as they won't be there in the definition of agriculture produce. Again, just a minute. Please say your queries if you have any queries till here. Let me check this. A religious place is not registered, its turnover is more than 10 lakh, then how will collect tax? See, if it's not more than 10 lakh, then obviously they do not need to collect the tax. Because that is the basic requirement here. Rakesh, sir, these rates are not in module. Sir, these rates are not in module. Which rates, Charu? I haven't mentioned any rate as such. Whatever I am teaching here is from your study material. Okay, 100% everything is covered from your study material. Nothing I have done on my own. Mentioned in the PPT. Is Dharamshala a religious place meant in for general public? Yes, it will be considered under a religious place. Sanjay? Okay, some have answered. Superb. Okay, great. Exempt, not taxable, perfect, very good, superb. Everyone has given the correct answer for that question I asked you. So how to study the chapter? Because of so much theory, it becomes boring and monotonous. Ayush, it is very, very interesting chapter and very scoring. You have to be very focused if you are thinking it as a scoring chapter. Okay, simple and hence it is scoring. Sir, question 2, 9,000 per day. See again. Yes, 9,000 per day. A day it will be considered per month. Okay, if there are shop, we'll consider it a per month. When we say exempt horses, I think it is very easy to overcome this hurdle because we can have a pony. It will be exempt under GST. Ayush, okay, good. Plant animals can give fuel. Yes. Rice content 51. Rice is not covered here. Abhishek, please wait for rice. Rice has a different entry itself. We are going to learn that as well. Processing permissible like reading of produce. Okay, sir, paddy. Please wait for paddy as well. We are going to learn for paddy as well. Yes, packing of agriculture produce in snacks. You are making us in sacks for taking to the market is taxable. No, agriculture produce packing in the sacks. Okay, for taking the primary market. If you are taking the retail market, it will be taxable. In primary market, no worries. Thereafter, paddy is agriculture produce, but rice will consider agriculture produce or not. Okay, Namrata, I'm going to answer about the paddy as well. Okay, wait for it. So what about cheese? Cheese is processed thing. It is processed from milk. It is going to be taxable. Okay, great enough. Let's come back to our PPT. So this was the first entry which said about the cultivation of the plants and rearing of horses. If it is for agriculture produce, I'm taking only one single word from this. If it is for agriculture produce, it is exempt. What is agriculture produce? Now you are great enough to know this. Okay. Second, if there is supply of farm labor. Okay. So supply of farm labor is also mentioned in an exemption. So if an organization is supplying any farm labor to anyone, say take 5 labor, 10 labor, 20 labor for a month, for a week or for days. So here this is also covered under the exemption. Next part. C. Processing carried out on an agriculture farm. Okay, now in relation to cultivation and rearing of the animals except horses, if there is certain procedures which are carried out on farm itself, please remember this, on farm itself, including tending. Tending is very, see, I have put in the images where certain things you don't know basically. Tending means you can simply see that you are making that soil correct. Okay, so like the fresh air goes to the roots. Tending. Second, pruning. Pruning is something where you cut the extra part of the tree which is not necessary, or which is you don't require that particular part. That is known as pruning. So you can see in this image, you can check this, they are cutting the extra part which is not required. Many times in the rose and everything, flower trees, it is done so that the plant focuses on the growth of that particular main product. And then cutting, harvesting, drying, cleaning, trimming, sun drying, fumigation, curing, sorting. These are all simple terms which you know. Curing, sorting, grading, your different grades are classifying, cooling them, or bulk packaging, just like what someone has asked me in the sacks and such like operation, again, which should not alter the essential of the product. Okay, so whatever process you do, see this all process mentioned, this doesn't affect the essential characteristics of that particular product, but any other process than this if you do, then that should not alter the essential of that particular product, but make it only marketable for the primary market. So whatever you want to do, so many things we have mentioned here, do anything from this, but it should not alter the essential, and you should make it marketable in the primary market. Thereafter, D, the fourth part, renting or leasing of agro machinery or vacant land. See, this is also so interesting. Even if someone, see, they have given so many good things for a farmer. Okay, that if they are renting, if someone, if say I have an organization who have say 10-15 agriculture machines, and I am giving that on rent to farmers. So again, GST is not applicable. This is an exempt service. You have given a vacant land to someone so that he can do the agriculture produce, cultivation of plants or rearing of animals other than horses. Please don't forget the first part which you have learned. These are different branches of that. The first part was cultivation of plants and rearing of animals except horses. Then there were different parts. First for agriculture produce. Then second was we all learned this tending, curing, processing, farm labor for that. And the fourth one is leasing of agro machineries. Item D of the entry exempts renting of leasing of agro machinery or vacant land with or without a structure incidental to its use. So you can see in the images, right? There are different agro machineries here. Okay, if you are renting the same, then again the exemption is there for you. Next, loading, unloading, packaging, storage, or warehousing of agriculture produce. Now, please pay attention here, guys. They have specifically said you that you are loading, unloading, packaging, or storage, or also warehousing. So warehousing, like you yourself are warehousing the things for any of the agriculture produce. Again, sir, what is agriculture produce? You know very nicely. Yes, what is agriculture produce? The basic things which are not further processed and made only for the primary market. Right? So if you are loading the same, if you are unloading the same, if you are packing the same, you are storing the same, even if you are warehousing the same, the exemption is available with you. Okay. Next, now warehousing of agriculture produce. Now here an interesting thing comes here into picture. Now first say me, if I talk about tea, the green tea or coffee, are they agriculture produce or not? Yes. What do you think? Are they agriculture produce or not? Just a minute. Yeah. Okay. See here, tea raw form is the leaves. The leaves of that particular tea. They are further processed and then made as a green tea or a coffee. Coffee is under agriculture extension services. So if you are in any of this and you are giving knowledge to the farmers and giving training to them, again this will be considered under your exemption. Next, Agriculture Produce Marketing Committee. It is also known as APMC. Okay, please remember, it is also known as APMC. Services by Agriculture Produce Marketing Committee or board or services provided by commission agent for sale or purchase of agriculture produce are not liable to GST. Now see, APMC are generally a committee, okay, which help farmer to sell their product. If they are member, they can help farmer to sell their product to the different organization or general public or whatever it may be. Okay, so here they have said the services of APMC, as well as there are many agents, like there are wholesalers, okay, who buy from farmer, who sell to the next persons, okay, as well as the service of such commission agents is exempt when if they are related to agriculture produce. APMC collect market fees, license fee, rents, etc. Okay, any other services provided by APMC not relating to agriculture will be liable, just like renting of shop. Now APMC have their own premises as well near the markets. They also rent the shops. This renting of shops is liable to tax. But the services relating to agriculture produce, like purchasing the same, helping in the same to sell it, collecting the license fee or the market fees for these particular things, the exemption is provided. But if it is in relation to the any other thing than the agriculture produce, it is going to be taxable. Okay, so APMC service, agent service, or the whatever the person would be there, if it is related to agriculture produce, exemption is provided. If it is not related to agriculture produce, exemption is not provided. Okay, after the last point is for again we are continuing the entry 54. If you are taking any services by way of fumigation or in a warehouse of agriculture produce. So if you are doing fumigation, what is fumigation? So you can just see in the picture, right? That they are putting that particular type of smoke for the well-being of the agriculture produce, or that it should be away from all the insects or anything that like that. If you are doing the fumigation of your warehouses, again the same is given as an exemption. So see, these exemption are in the way of activities. There are a variety of activities which they have said in relation to cultivation of crops, rearing of animals except horses. Okay, these all are covered under your exemption. Entry number 54. Okay, just pay attention here. Once again, I am repeating all the things which are covered under entry 54. Okay, please wait with your queries. I am going to take that queries as well. Let me complete this complete sector of agriculture, because there are some more things which are remaining for this particular sector. First, we discussed entry 54, which said, come on, I am taking a revision quickly with me. Agriculture related service exemptions. Entry number 54, which says that if you are cultivating any crops or rearing any forms of animals other than horses for fuel, food, fiber, raw material, etc., and you are directly related to agriculture produce, exemption is there. What is agriculture produce? You know well enough. If there is no further processing done, or further processing is done without changing essential characteristics, and if it is important to sell in the primary market. Second, supply of farm labor. Third, the different kinds of process you are carrying out on the farm itself: tending, curing, cutting, harvesting, drying, cleaning, trimming, sun drying, fumigation, etc., etc., etc. Okay. Fourth, renting of, leasing of agro machinery or vacant land. Fifth, loading, unloading, packaging, storing of, again, agriculture produce. Thereafter, sixth, F, agriculture extension services, like you are giving education to farmers and everyone. Eighth, APMC services in relating to agriculture produce. If for rent and everything, it will be taxable. And the last one, fumigation of the warehouses of the agriculture produce again. Okay, then the exemption is given to you. Next, there are few other entries as well. Okay, now few other entries include here. Just a minute. Yeah, there are a few other entries as well. Which one of them are services by way of loading, unloading? Now see, firstly they have said you well nicely that loading, unloading, packaging and everything only for agriculture produce. Okay, now they have given a separate entry itself which says that services by way of loading, unloading, packaging and storing of warehouse of rice or warehousing of rice. So for rice specifically they have given a different entry itself which says that even the exemption will be there for rice. Why sir rice? So see here guys, thing is what actually I had taken that further. I will take that part first. Okay, paddy, custom milling of paddy into rice. So just like you can see in this image, are you able to see this? See, generally when rice is grown, it comes into paddy. Okay, and what farmer does is farmer sell this paddy to the mill owners. So they then take the rice out from this paddy. So now here you can get this rice. The rice is not a agricultural produce. Paddy is the agricultural produce because it is the primary thing. It is further processed by the millers, so it is then taken as a rice. So rice, please remember this. So you can please remember this image specifically. There is paddy, and then after processing you get the rice. So rice is not an agriculture produce. Paddy is agriculture produce. Okay. So here for rice specifically they have said you that loading, unloading, packaging of the rice is also exempt, even being not an agriculture produce. Further, services by way of warehousing of minor forest produce. So if there is any minor forest produce, the same thing will be given in your question itself. If the question appears in your exam that if there is any minor forest, okay, and if there is any product for this, so warehousing of that as well comes under the exemption. Next, services by way of storage, warehousing of cereals, pulses. Why sir cereals and pulses given differently? Because again they are processed things. Okay, the raw material is the raw thing is something different. They further process and then they form cereals. So they have been specifically given an exemption for warehousing of cereals, pulses, fruits, nuts, vegetables, spices, copra, sugarcane, jaggery as well. So even though jaggery is a processed form, sugar, the warehousing of the same has been given under exemption. Raw vegetable, fibers such as cotton is also considered here, flax, jute, etc. Indigo, unmanufactured tobacco, the raw tobacco, betel leaves, tender leaves, coffee and tea. If you are giving the warehousing service for these particular products, again exemption is given to you. Okay, now many students ask me questions, sir, how to remember so many things? So see, you don't have to learn the things, you have to just remember the things, and remembering is really very simple in comparison to learning. How can you do that? Just read this particular line 24b with complete concentration. Take a minute and read that particular line with complete concentration. I can challenge you, you will remember each and everything. What happens? We focus on learning the things, and in the focus of learning, we don't even remember the things. Okay? So please, just remember this with the full concentration. Read this sentence and you will remember it as it is. Okay? So here it was given that if you are storing any pulses, fruits, vegetables, pulse, cereals, anything, including jaggery, cotton, unmanufactured tobacco, indigo, flax, jute, etc. If you are storing the same, the warehousing and the storage of the same is exempt from GST. The next is services by way of fumigation in a warehouse of agriculture produce. This already you have seen. Now services of fumigation of warehouse of agriculture produce, again it is exempt. Okay. Next, carrying out an intermediate production process as job work in relation to cultivation of plants and rearing of all life form of animal except rearing of horses for food, fiber, fuel, raw material or other similar product or agriculture produce. Now see what they have said. If you are taking any job work, again for agriculture produce only, it is again exempt. Okay, so if you are purchasing anything or if you are doing any job work for anyone so as to make their product available in the primary market without altering the essential characteristic, keeping it as an agriculture produce. Now I want everyone with amazing clarity. What is agriculture produce? Keeping things as it is, sellable in the primary market, do not alter the essential characteristics. Okay, so if you are doing any intermediate process as a job work, again that is covered under the exemption. And then services by way of artificial insemination of livestock other than horses. Now what is this artificial insemination? Now guys, you must be heard about breeding, right? There is been cross breeding and everything that has been done so that the livestock means animals. Okay, so that the livestock animals can, the next generation of animals can be a hybrid one or more better one. So the cross breeding and artificial insemination and everything is done. Even that is exempt. But if you are doing it for horse, it is taxable. So artificial insemination of animals, that is livestock, exempt. But if you are doing it for horse, again it is taxable. Clear? Okay. So yes. Any queries for this? Please post your queries. I am taking your queries here. Shivani is saying sugar cane and jaggery. I have said you sugar cane, jaggery is a processed, sugar cane is not processed, but jaggery warehousing also exempt from another entry. Sir, what does primary market mean? Primary market means the very first market where these all things are sold. Okay, the primary one, the very first one, where the farmer generally goes. You can see in many cities or even many villages, there is one market which we generally say the wholesale market, where the farmers comes with the trucks and they sell their product to the different agents or the different retailers. Okay, that is the primary market. Thereafter, sir, brokerage charges by broker in primary market for sale of agriculture produce not taxable. Yes or no? Yes, it's not taxable, Shamim, if it is for agriculture produce. Commission, there you don't say brokerage, there you say commission, and the people who do this are known as commission agents. Mancha, no, they are not agriculture produce. Okay, yes, correct. They are you can answer of my question. Okay, superb. With further processing, the tea and coffee are agriculture produce. Without further processing, yes, without further processing, the basic leaves are agriculture produce of tea and coffee. Charu. Then Rahul has asked, sir, which packing, primary or secondary or both? Sir, which packing? Primary packing. Secondary packing is always going to be taxable. No video, no audio, video stock. Sir. Oh shit. Sir, your voice is echoing. I'm so sorry, yaar. I will repeat the tea coffee point. I'm so sorry. Is my voice fine now? I'm so sorry for this. Please say me if my voice is fine now. I will repeat the point. So plants and animals can give food. Okay. Okay. So see, tea and coffee point. I will repeat it. I think because there was a lag there in between. I'm so sorry for the lag. Hopefully my voice is now clear. Okay. So see, tea and coffee. What is the basic thing grown? Right? The leaves. Leaves are the primary thing. We further process it into the factories so that the black tea, green tea, white tea, and all colorful teas and that can be obtained. So these all green tea, coffees which are processed, these are taxable, but the leaves are not taxable as they are agriculture produce. That was said there. So also the warehousing of the same is taxable for the black tea, green tea, blue tea, and all teas, and the coffee, processed coffee. But for the leaves, it is an exemption. Okay. Yes, Shamim, so I'll explain that point. If any queries again with this point, please post it. Sir, can you please, yes, I had explained, sir, how plants and animals can be fuel. See, fuel means you don't, plants, different kinds of fuels can be obtained by crushing them. And again, you can also consider fuel like mode of transportation. Okay, like bullock cart or everything, that type of fuel, like you're transporting them. Again, the many, biogas, how the biogas is made. By the leftover of plants or animals, cow dung, by cow dung and everything, right? So that acts as a fuel. Sir, too much echo. It's getting hard to understand. Sir, primary market means, I think it's fine now. So primary market means Anaj Mandi. Yes, Shamim, perfect. You can also say that Anaj Mandi, or there can be different, your regional words can be there. So the local markets where all farmer come with their trucks. Sir, warehousing of agriculture produce. Please explain once. The video was stuck. Sugarcane juice is taxable. It is sugarcane juice. So you are further processing the sugarcane, then the juice is obtained. Okay. Someone was asking me, sir, please, warehousing point for agriculture produce. Yes. I said you see, if your product is an agriculture produce, how can a product can be agriculture produce when there are different sort of things, like if it is a primary, it is sellable in the primary market, right? Further, you don't alter the main characteristics, so that will come under agriculture produce. Now, if you are doing the warehousing of any agriculture produce, including storage, packaging, loading, unloading, it will be an exempt fund. Okay, let's take a question given in your study material, and let's try to check ourselves whether we have learned this absolutely correct or not. Please pay attention. Now, whenever institute asks you question, every question is going to have their own uniqueness in exam as well. So try to read each and every word very carefully. First, illustration 1. Dukya Das is engaged in providing following services. With the help of information given below, determine which of the services of Dukya Das are exempt from GST and which are not exempt from GST. Okay, so everyone pay attention. The first they have asked you is packing of the onions purchased from village farmers into small packets of 1 kg each in Dukya Das warehouse so that the same can be sold in nearby city mall. Now see me, onions are kept as it is, that is great enough, but they are selling them in a city mall. City mall, is the city mall a primary market? Yes, absolutely no. So this is not exempt. Okay, next, warehousing of jaggery and tea. Yes guys, warehousing of jaggery and tea. So we have learned specifically, they have given specifically, okay, it is not an agriculture produce, but specifically they have given that this is an exempt thing with a different entry altogether. We are going to take once again or look upon this, don't worry. Okay, next and the last, please remember very carefully, renting of warehouse for storage of agriculture produce. You are not giving warehousing services. Just read this clearly. You are a person who are giving these warehouses on rent to someone else, and then he will be giving service to farmers to store their crops and vegetable and everything. So we are talking about this first service. Renting, say I have 10 warehouses and I am giving these 10 warehouses on rent to different persons to handle. This is not exempt. That 10 persons are keeping agriculture produce and then they are giving services to other farmers. That is exempt service. So please remember here, the next part is exempt, but this part which they have specifically asked in the question, that renting of warehouse is not an exempt thing. Okay, warehouse further used for agriculture storage of agriculture produce, that is agriculture produce warehousing, and that will be an exempt thing. Okay, clear everyone? And see, here we have seen this entry. Services by way of storage, warehousing of cereals, purchases, fruits, nuts. Only storage and warehousing are no loading and unloading. Spices, copra, sugarcane, jaggery, as well as all types of coffee and tea are exempt. Hence the second thing we take it as an exempt fund. Okay guys, any queries so far? Yes? Why there is different treatment of horses? Mansa, I already said you, because horses are generally owned by the rich people. The general public don't own this. And if they are rich enough, then they can pay the tax. Okay, great. We just unable to hear the points relating to tea, coffee. Okay, that's great. I already same the same. Yes, black tea, green tea is taxable. Okay, perfect. Super. Is warehousing of tea of exempt? Yes, warehousing of tea is exempt as specifically an entry is providing the same. Okay. Now let's come to the next and the interesting part of educational services. Now guys, here in education services, firstly you have to divide the discussion in two parts, because some services receiving as an educational are also exempt, and some services giving by an educational institute is an also exempt here. See, as we all learned in the first part of the chapter, that exemption can be provided to supplier as well as the receiver. So educational services are certain services where some services as a recipient. So if someone is giving a services to education institute as a recipient, they are exempt. And certain services which they are providing are also exempt. Okay, so this is an interesting part of the educational services here. We'll learn this. First we'll go and we'll learn the output service part. Okay, services provided by an education institution to its students. Please remember, services provided by an educational institution, output service means which we are giving. So if any education institution is giving a service, okay, to its faculty, student and staff, okay, by way of conduct of entrance examination against consideration in the form of entrance fee are exempt. Now, if any education institution, what is education institution? We haven't learned that. But yes, if any education institution gives its services to students, faculty and staff as well, also by way of conducting any examination, this will be covered under the exemption. Now, what is educational institution? This is the interesting point here. An institution providing services by way of preschool education and education up to higher secondary school. So preschool, like right from junior to the 12th standard, HSC or equivalent, will be known as educational institution. The first part, okay, education institution. What are education institution? Preschool qualifications up to HSC. The organization giving the same things will be considered as an educational institution. Second, education as a part of curriculum for obtaining a qualification recognized by any law for time being in force. So if any institution is giving, here education in terms of any recognized qualification for the law which is being in force. So if there is any institution which is giving, which is educating people for any particular degree, there's a degree or qualification, again that should be recognized by the law which is currently in force. Even such institution will be known as educational institution. And the last, which is giving education as a part of an approved vocational education course. So there are these three things. There are these three people who will be known as education institution. The first, primary till HSC. Second, who are giving for the particular qualification which are recognized by law. And the third, approved vocational education courses. Please don't forget, approved vocational education courses. Okay, so these three people are going to be known as education institution. Yes, repeat with me, please everyone. First, preschool up to HSC. Second, recognized by law, any qualification. And third, approved vocational education training. So you can remember it very simply in a particular way. You get a birth, you get to pre-primary school to HSC, then you take a, obviously we generally take a qualification which is recognized by law, right? And then say you have gone for any vocational training, which is again approved. Three things very easily sum up as an educational institution. So if such education institution is giving its services to students, faculty and staff, it is exempt. Also, if they are conducting any entrance examination and they are collecting any fees, again it is exempt. Next, now see, conduct of degree courses by college, universities or institution. It is an education institution as it is recognized by law. Training given by private coaching institution. No, it is not an education institution because private coaching institutions are not recognized by any law, neither pre-primary school nor the HSC, neither vocational approved vocational courses. Education as a part of prescribed curriculum for obtaining qualification recognized by law of a foreign country. Now see, of a foreign country, such institution is not given an education institution status in India because what they have specifically said, recognized by the Indian law, which is currently in being force. So any foreign institution is also not considered here as an educational institution and hence can claim the exemption here. Again, just a minute. So sorry. Yes. Okay. Now here guys, as we have said you that the third point was approved vocational education courses. Okay. So when we are saying approved vocational education courses, here means first a course run by ITI. What is ITI? Industrial Training Institute, or ITC, Industrial Training Center. These all courses by ITI or ITC are approved one. Further, a modular employable skill course approved by NCVT. Again, that will be and come under approved vocational courses. See, pre-primary school to HSC was very clear to us. The qualification recognized by our Indian law is very clear to us. Third was approved vocational courses. So the third most question or query you would most be having or approved vocational courses. So courses which are conducted or course run by ITI or ITC, and a modular employable skill course which is again approved by NCVT, National Council for Vocational Training. These things will be known as your approved vocational courses. Okay, so if there is any private ITI which qualifies as an education institution provided by this ITI is approved. So if there is any private ITI, a private organization, private industrial training institution providing any vocational course will be exempt only and only when it is approved. So if it is approved, then exempt. If not approved, it won't be exempt. Government ITI, it is very simple, obviously. Government ITI, also if courses are approved, super enough. If not approved, another entry is there which we are going to learn in the government sector exemptions. Okay, and the last part for here for today is unrecognized educational institute. So private coaching centers or any unrecognized education institute which doesn't come under the definition of education institute, okay, would not be treated as education institute under GST, and thus exemption will be not available to them. They have to collect tax, they have to charge tax. Okay, so that's for a half part of education institution. I have taken a very basic part. I have just taught you what is the education institute. So any institute which is in pre-primary school, higher secondary school, or approved vocational approved courses, your approved qualification under the law, which is approved under recognized by the law, and the approved vocational courses. What is approved vocational courses? Either by ITI, ITC, which are approved, or by the next was modular employee skill course approved by NCVT. This will be your approved vocational courses. So if anyone is running this approved vocational courses, again, that will be considered under education institution, and the service to staff, student will be, and faculty will be exempt. Okay, so that's all for today. Let's take a quick grasp for whatever things we have done. A very 2 minutes quick revision for here. Okay, the first thing we have started here was what was exemptions. When particular things are given, that government has said that please don't pay tax on this. But what was the definition of exemption? It considered 3 parts. One, yes, first nil rated 0%. Okay, second, which are specifically exempted, and third, non-taxable, which are outside of the ambit of the GST. Thereafter, what you have said, exemption can be given to any activity or any supplier or any receiver or both. Exemption can be in part or full. Great enough. How exemption can be given? By notification, yes, by notification or by special order in certain special circumstances. But remember, it should come by the recommendation of the council. Thereafter, we have started with the exemption of the first charitable trust. In charitable trust, we have seen different things. Firstly, what is a charitable trust? Okay, that should be entity is 12AA registration. And there are 4 different objectives what they can do as a charitable activities. One was for health, another was for education, that all for 65 plus rural, and then another was for environment, and one was for the general public, about the senior citizens and everyone, right? Thereafter, we have come to the next exemption of your agriculture sector. In that, we have learned that agriculture sector, first agriculture produce, if it is, which doesn't alter the essential characteristics, which is a primary sellable market, it is agriculture produce. All things regarding the same will be considered agriculture produce, and the same will be exempted. Also, further exemption of loading, unloading was given to for pulses, rice, everything. This was the basic part we have seen, and then we have seen the Education Institute. Let me quickly see your queries if anything is there, or else we'll meet day after tomorrow and we'll continue this and we'll complete the complete chapter, and we'll have a rapid revision day after tomorrow for your exemption. Okay, so please they be there at sharp 7. Let me see your queries and then we'll see off here. Okay. Clear, okay. So entry 54 warehousing of service of tea, coffee, jaggery is unprocessed exempt. However, 22B is processed also exempt. Yes, absolutely correct, Shivani. So entry 62, all the universities of the schools government are exempt, and private schools and colleges are not exempt. We'll discuss that later, Sahil. I have kept that on pending. Not note approved MBA college is exempt or not. Approved MBA college. See, approved MBA college doesn't have approved or unapproved. The qualification should be approved by the law, recognized by the law. So please repeat the warehousing of agriculture produce. Your teaching is amazing. Thank you so much, Sakshi. Awesome and very understandable lectures. Thank you so much, Shaim. Okay, let's meet day after tomorrow and continue this chapter from here. Warehousing was a very simple thing which I've said you for any other thing as well. Warehousing means what? You are a farmer. You don't have so many places, or you don't have a shed to keep these things. So you go to any particular person who has a big shed or warehouse and you ask them to keep your things with him. So this service, for whatever service he is giving, whatever rent he will be charging you as a farmer will be exempt here. Okay, so that's it for today. Just a minute. Yeah, so we'll continue from the Education Institute in our next lecture. Thank you so much. Okay, yes. Yes, sir, we can conclude. Thank you.